Welcome to a brand new series of Have I Got News for You, now on BBC One for the first time, although we'd like to reassure our regular BBC Two viewers that the move to mainstream television will in no way affect the show's content. Good evening, I'm Carol Smiley. In the news this week, in Downing Street for the second night running, Ewan Blair walks in a straight line. At the Conservative Party conference in Blackpool, Anne Widdecombe jumps off the end of the pier. And at the International Show Jumping Championships, Britain's team is just one jump away from the first world title in 60 years. On Ian Hislop's team, a comedian who, according to the Daily Star, can't go anywhere without being hounded by hordes of screaming fans. Obviously busy tonight. Richard Blackwood. Better late than never. And with Paul Merton this evening is a BBC News reporter who has been shot at, bombed and punched before reluctantly agreeing to come back on the show. John Simpson. Those are our guests, so let's not prolong the agony as we literally push off with our opening film round. Paul and John.
Oh, this is the Queen. That's
her clothes falling off.
Yeah, or,
that's the Pope.
That's the Pope. Hello, I'm the Queen, you're the Pope. Hello, I'm Prince Philip, you're the Pope.
They're eating goat. They weren't allowed to have, what was it, long spaghetti.
Long spaghetti. Garlic.
And garlic.
Mm.
Yeah. Did they say why it had to be not long spaghetti and not short?
Well, I assume not long spaghetti because she didn't want the sauce to splash on her outfit, I would think. Mm.
And the garlic is because she's a vampire.
Those things that you saw being taken off the plane is earth from her own country. She must sleep in at night.
And what were the Italian dignitaries told not to do to the Queen?
Molest her.
Yes.
Hold a crucifix up to her face.
I think it's difficult for the Pope, that one.
They were told not to touch the Queen, in fact.
That's what I said.
Yeah. And one Italian wolf whistled the Queen.
Really? What?
Yes.
Was that an Italian wolf that whistled?
No.
Because you see, it all ties in, you see. Dracula, the creatures of the night.
You have a special name for Her Majesty, don't you?
No. I once... Can I say this on TV?
I think you're going to, so...
I once said that she's got a face on money. And I said, and the bitch looks bored. But the thing is, what I was trying to say was, if you had your face on money, you would pose, right? You know, like on a 1 pence, you'd be... That's what I was saying, obviously, the Queen has got used to the fact that her face is on money.
Exactly. It was a term of affection, wasn't
That's what I was trying to say, because I have a lot of love for the Queen.
I didn't believe that either.
Well, at least he didn't moon at her, John.
I split my trousers in front of the Queen.
Were you excited at meeting her?
Well, I was afterwards. That was... there were 70,000 other people there.
Did she notice?
70,000 people clapping and cheering me as I walked across an open football field. I think it would be quite difficult with my backside hanging out. I think it would be quite difficult not to have noticed me. I may be wrong. I may be wrong.
Why else has the Pope been in the news this week?
Because he's the Pope.
But he's also releasing another album.
Is he?
Yeah.
So meeting the Queen was just publicity, load of places.
And you, of course, you've released an album this week.
Well, I released an album, yeah, but I haven't met the Queen.
God, this is BBC One now, isn't it?
They're quite hip, yeah. I haven't got no controversy.
What's the name of your album?
You'll love to hate this.
I'd really like to know.
This is the Queen's official visit to Italy. As part of her trip, the Queen and Prince Philip were taken to see the Sistine Chapel, where she spent 15 minutes staring impassively at the ceiling, something she probably hasn't done since her wedding night.
If they keep that in, they better keep my bitch in. That's all I'm saying.
For the bitches meeting with the frail 80-year-old Pope, the Queen was dressed in a formal black outfit with matching veil. Well, there's no harm in being prepared. Asked by His Holiness if it was true that he always made gaffes on his trips abroad, Prince Philip shrugged and said, "Is the Pope a Catholic?" Ian and Richard, your friendly fire.
Okay, this is the guy that took the money. What's his name?
Peter Mandelson.
Mandelson.
Normally.
If I get this right, that guy, Mandelson,
Mandelson.
him,
Yep.
took the money from Roger?
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Robinson. We're getting near.
Right. It came out in the memoirs that, he took this money, 300 and something thousand, and he's saying, well, because he's the head of the Northern... Is it Irish constituency? Is that right?
He's sort of Northern Ireland minister, but yes.
Northern Ireland. So I'm piecing this together.
We're getting there.
As you can see,
It's going well. I mean,
Yeah.
current affairs is difficult.
Yeah,
Have you thought of taking a job on our new 10 o'clock?
But no, so basically, he's now saying that the money was offered to him, and he was actually... And the other guy's saying that he put him under pressure to give him the money.
He did.
Yes.
It's true. All of it's true.
I think it's the perfect answer.
And what did the second guy want to spend the money on?
On his place. But obviously, because of the fact that he's to do with the Northern Ireland business, he cannot actually agree to take money because it looks like that he's up for bribes.
It's more because he was in charge of the DTI at the time, which were investigating the other guy. So it was a bit fishy that the other guy should be giving him 370 grand. Just a touch fishy.
That's the point that I was trying to raise.
I mean, we've still got a problem on this programme because we're not allowed to say that Peter Mandelson is a home owner.
Well, what's wrong with gay people owning homes?
Well, as new Director General now, we'll have to see what happens. They were strangely moved to BBC Three.
BBC Knowledge, here we go.
According to the Daily Telegraph, Geoffrey Robinson has a reputation for carrying large amounts of cash. If he was buying coffees, he would hand over a £50 note, to which the Starbucks cashier would reply, "Sorry, this doesn't quite cover it." Paul and John, a slightly bigger row for you.
Yasser Arafat, Ehud Barak. This isn't very funny. These are the people the Israeli army regards as targets. Clinton thinks this is going to settle his place in history, but somehow the rest of us think differently. But anyway.
And Robin Cook's gone out there on the grounds that he looks a lot like Yasser Arafat.
You're, of course, head of World Affairs, aren't you, John?
Is this a question that I need to answer? Yes.
I was just wondering what you're doing here.
Yes. I've been thinking the same thing.
Shouldn't you be out there reporting on it?
No, because it's all over.
Oh, right.
It's all over.
Okay.
Bar the shooting.
By the shoot.
Yeah.
So when you're out there and you're doing your... Because I've always wanted to know this. You're out there and they're shooting and stuff, and you're there to camera. Do you not feel like maybe one of the bullets might hit you? You're not scared about that?
Yes.
And you still can just be there talking...
Oh, for very short periods of time.
You don't split your pants, it's something similar.
This is the escalating violence in the Middle East. After several days of these tense negotiations, Bill Clinton announced that he'd finally identified some common ground shared by both sides. Unfortunately, it was Jerusalem. And finally, in this round, Ian and Richard.
Jeremy Paxson. This is the German...
Enigma machine.
There you go, the secret code thing that was sent to him, and he doesn't know why.
'Cause it was nicked from Bletchley Park.
So what is this Enigma machine exactly?
I'm gonna hand that to you, bro.
That's very kind. It was a German machine which they used to create code during
Yes.
the war, and it was deemed unbreakable, but then it was broken by Alan Turing and various others at Bletchley Park during the war. British know-how.
Is that right, Richard?
I mean, you know, I'm going with the bro right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you're going
Perfect
with me.
answer. Right. Yes, so
Pick it up, aren't you? Pick it up.
Give me some street talk.
Yeah.
It's
He'll be
avenue
hit by the
talk.
time we leave the show.
Yeah.
Go home to his wife. Yo, bitch.
Can't see that going down awfully well. Anyway, there they were. All the bitches in Hut 8 cracking that code
He's
for
been wanting to say that. You can
pro-Churchill.
Yes, it is the Enigma machine, which was posted to Jeremy Paxman. A BBC spokesman confirmed fears that 3 vital cogs were missing, but said that Paxman had always been like that. The Enigma machine works by sending an electric charge every time a button is pushed, which produces a random series of letters that's virtually impossible to decode. So a bit like Windows 98. So, at the end of that round, both teams have the equivalent of €1 million with 4 marks each. In round 2, we turn to the world of tired old routines, tacky presentation and standing ovations. And not another audience with on ITV, but the party conference season. A number of lowlights to identify. Paul and John.
So the Blair's coming down the stairs. That's John Prescott there. Tony Blair, this was his big speech, wasn't he, when he sweated? There we are, sweating.
He's sweating a bit.
Total sweating. She's stuck right
She's
next to
trying to
him.
get away from him.
Nelson Mandela holding his hand, and it's the Labour Party conference.
And what advice did Tony get over his sweat problem?
Don't sweat so much in future.
There was more practical advice than that.
Wear
in fact.
antiperspirant.
Something about clothes.
Yeah.
Don't wear dark... No, what was he
Yeah,
wearing?
exactly. Wear white or
Wear white.
lighter coloured clothing, as indeed
Lighter
George
coloured
Bush
clothing.
Jr. showed how to do. There we are. So how long was this speech?
27 minutes.
57 minutes. in
Was
fact.
it really? I
Yes,
didn't see
was.
it.
Yeah.
I would have been amazed if I'd been right. I've no idea. I was on holiday when that happened.
Where?
What do you mean where?
Where were you on holiday?
Doesn't have nothing to do with you.
Well, you mentioned it.
The Maldives. Just outside Essex. It's a nightclub.
Yes, this is the Labour Party conference in Brighton. As part of increased security arrangements, a closed walkway linked the lobby of the Metropole Hotel to the conference centre, a measure approved by all delegates except John Prescott, who complained it was a bit tricky getting his jag through. Ian and Richard, your party animals?
Ah, that's William Hague, 14 pints in. Oh, that's a few more than 14 pints.
And Big Lady there came out and basically... Sorry. Right, Big Lady came out and said that...
She's an M&S small.
She's got 2 badges shoved down her jumper, I know that. She's a virgin, isn't she?
Have you modelled your hair on her?
Yeah.
So what was she talking about in her speech?
She was
then?
still talking about people who possess cannabis should be fined £100 on the spot, she said.
That's right, £100 fixed fine, which was condemned by a group of cannabis users, or the shadow cabinet, as they're known.
You know, a lot of them start admitting that they had once allegedly, you know, taken a little pull of the stuff, right?
And there was one of them called Oliver Letwin who said, at university I put it in my pipe. Oh, you had a pipe at university? No wonder he went into politics. I don't think he meant a bong. Whatever that is.
You know, I was going to ask you. Because I didn't know.
Well, of course, you famously confessed to taking drugs, haven't you?
But only in the Amazon, and only because a rather large group of Indians were trying to get me to drink their hallucinogenic drug. So I did the decent thing. It would have been churlish to have refused. So
How did you get there? How did you go there?
Well, he heard they had stuff.
So, is this thing enforceable, this £100, if you spot somebody smoking weed?
No, it's no good trying it backstage.
No, I just know a couple of brothers that
You want to shop them?
I got some bills to pay. You know? I give you a whole list now if you want.
And how did Ken Clark copy Tony Blair at the conference?
Did you sweat?
He did sweat. Oh, yeah. Could be beer, of course.
Nice colour, though.
What, his cheeks?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, he's looking well, at least. This is the Conservative Party conference and Anne Widdecombe's speech on drugs, during which she told delegates, if you are caught smoking cannabis, you will face a fixed penalty. It's a bit like speeding. She really hasn't tried it, has she? A number of high-profile Tories entered the debate. Norman Tebbit has never inhaled. Not cannabis, he's just never inhaled. So that concludes the conference roundup. In the interest of balance, we should point out that the Lib Dem conference was held in Bournemouth, but sadly was a complete non-event, except when Charles Kennedy chose to show off his sporting prowess. And you can see the full match on grandstand. Which party games mark the end of this constituent part, with both teams still in something of a coalition, together as they are on 6. Round 3 is regarded by many as the odd one out round and comes with the added attraction this week of being half as long as usual. One per team, Paul and John. Your popular favourites are Robbie Williams, Scary Spice, Prince William and Slobodan Milosevic.
Let me see. Is it about books?
In what way?
Well, none of them have written a book. And Robin Williams hasn't read one.
What it is that each one of these, Mel, Robbie, and Prince William allegedly have had William was with supposedly fancied Britney Spears. Robbie, Kylie, and Mel with
Nicholas Parsons.
Is that it? Is that basically the road?
What, they've all fancied people of the opposite sex?
No.
Right.
Can you give me a clue?
Please.
Yes. The answer's in the picture.
I know what it is.
What?
Slobodan Milosevic. There was a rally recently where they took a photograph of it, was printed up, and it was a fake photograph. To make much more people than actually was there. There was 2 people there, and they made it look like thousands by putting 2 people there, 2 people there, 2 people there, 2 people there. So he's used photography to try and fool people, and the other people have been victims of it.
Is the right answer. Yes, we can have a look at that photograph, in fact, of an election rally in Montenegro. Suspicions were aroused when it appeared that 2 people on the left seemed to also be the same as 2 people on the right. And Mel Bees was the victim of some photographic tampering. This was on Loaded.
Oh, Loaded, that's right.
Where they airbrushed out her bikini and replaced it with a swarm of bees.
How did you get bees to do that?
And Prince William was Edward's wedding photograph, in fact, last summer, when he looked too grumpy, so they digitally replaced him with a smiling face.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And Robbie Williams, might as well finish.
His CD poster, where his bare bottom
Oh, he's bare bottom.
was regarded as too hairy and spotty.
So,
They airbrushed his
So
bottom.
they airbrushed his bum, yeah.
Well, thank goodness the programme hasn't gone down, Mark.
After Milosevic refused to stand down, the Parliament building was attacked by an unstoppable mob who fought their way past police and brought mayhem to the streets, apparently led by an expert especially flown in from North London. Ian and Richard, your frightening prospects are Vinnie Jones, Margaret Beckett, Robin Cook, and Richard Folds.
This has got to be shotguns.
Shotguns.
He won the double bore gold medal. Clay pigeons, 2 clay pigeon shoots things. It was terrific. It was on very early.
Yes.
Remember all of it.
Vinnie Jones, obviously known for his Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch and the whole gun thing.
Margaret Beckett, the star of Terminator 3.
Yes.
Now, I reckon she shoots clay pigeons, or she's got a licence for a shotgun, and Cook just sells them. I bet that's the answer.
Can I give you a clue?
Yep.
It's got nothing to do with shotguns.
Is it to do with neighbours? Arguments with neighbours?
Well, Vinnie did have...
Vinnie Jones head-butted a neighbour
Yeah.
and attacked a neighbour, I believe, and got into trouble because of that.
And this man shot his neighbour.
And his neighbours say it's very noisy with him practising in the back garden.
outside.
So who's the odd one out?
Robin Cook, because he always is.
Yes, the answer is that they have all provoked complaints from their neighbours, except for Robin Cook, who has complained about his neighbour, one Margaret Beckett. What does he complain about?
Dunno. Sounds good.
She left her bikes in an untidy pile. There was too much noise from her social gatherings and smoke from her barbecue.
Really? Well, the death penalty, then.
And Vinnie, do you know what he did to his neighbour?
Yeah.
What?
He fed him to his horse. No, he sort of... I think he head-butted him, probably.
He did. He nutted him.
He bit his head, kicked him and stamped on him. He was asked if he would shake his neighbour's hand. And he said...
find it.
Olympic medalist Richard Folds claimed that he was inspired by listening to Whitney Houston's hit One Moment in Time. I think most of us would want to shoot something after listening to it. In 1998, Vinnie Jones bit a neighbour's head in a dispute over a garden stile. Jones was sentenced to 100 hours of community service, although this was reduced to 50 hours after an appeal by the community. Which common complaints mean that at the end of this squabble, it's Ian and Richard who are failing to keep up with the Joneses, trailing as they do 9-8. And so to the orgiastic climax of our final missing words round, a number of this week's strapping headlines with their vital parts covered for you to identify, plus or not, one, few or more from this week's guest publication, the world-renowned American Window Cleaner. So stand by for shock poll, public say what?
We're sick of polls.
Yes to cannabis. Whatever.
Well, it's sort of, yes, in the right
Yes
area.
to pot.
Yes,
Say yes.
legalised pot is how it's phrased, yes. More than half think it should be available for sale in government-licensed shops. So any suggestions for names of those shops would be gratefully received. Pot shop, Joints Are Us.
Superdrug. WH Spliff.
Thank you. Next, there's a lot of what out there?
Space. American
Water.
window cleaners.
I go with water.
Ice.
It
in
is
Kent.
from American Window Cleaner.
Dave.
Glass.
Glass.
Glass, I think Paul said first. This is incredibly interesting.
You haven't said anything about the fact he's got a metal tie. I thought
Because
you'd
it's not
have
important.
mentioned his metal tie by now.
Is it actually metal?
It's made from the same material as Anne Widdecombe's knickers.
Next, what by sea lions shock scientists?
Oh, new albums.
Vandalism in car parks. Cannibalism.
Cannibalism is the right answer. Yes.
Was that a guess? Yeah. No, I mean, it's the dads, they're eating their kids.
It is
Dads
true.
eating their sons.
Yeah,
Terrible.
it's Fakaptos Hokari.
Well, you get some ointment then.
That's a species of sea lion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which drags its own pups into the sea and eats them.
Mind you, you know the feeling, don't you, if you've had kids?
Next, Dyke ditches what?
Me, after all this, I think I...
Dyke Ditches and Drains. It's a follow-up to Baubles, Bangles and Beads.
No, it isn't.
Ditches Bert's memoirs.
Bert the movie, yes. This is John Bert, who in his days as Director General was likened to Pol Pot, the man who, of course, totally ruined the Khmer Rouge with his brand of middle management. And lastly, wireless bra promises what?
The Archers. The Archers, every hour on the hour.
It's slightly
Uplift
more
without
of a,
wire marks.
without wire marks.
Well, I don't know. That's why I did it here.
There's
But without
Wireless
wire
bra promises Anne Widdecombe will be the first one to test it.
It's nothing to
She'll
do
want the wire.
As
with
soon as
your
we get enough steel.
alter ego.
They'll have to scrap a few ships or something. 1 minute it's HMS Belfast, the next minute it's quite nice.
Yes, women and uplifting future is the answer.
Yeah.
Which unerring inaccuracy means at the end of this meeting of limp minds, this week's Dumb and Dumber are Ian and Richard with 10. This week's couple of swells are Paul and John with 13. But before we send them back to where they came from, the dubious joy of our caption competition, Ian and Richard.
Who's the person hiding
John
behind
Major.
the Queen?
It's John Major.
John Major, that's what I thought, yeah.
Spot the dinosaur.
Paul and John, you have this.
Rabbit high on drugs imagines Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor and Rabbit watch other man play an invisible trombone. Rabbit in the middle says, how come you got water and I've got orange juice? Lord Mayor saying that's the last time we let the Liberal Democrats in. Look at this.
And I leave you with news that there's delight for the Reverend Ian Paisley after the giant catapult he's invented works for the first time. In an economy drive, the Deputy Prime Minister is told he is now going to share an office with Peter Mandelson. And in a surprising political gesture, Gordon Brown makes amends for the fuel crisis by offering himself up for sacrifice. Good night.
And the new series continues on BBC One this Friday at 9, with another chance to see it at the same time on Saturday, back here on BBC Two. And stay with us tonight for the Buzzcocks next, that's except for viewers in Northern Ireland.